Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Instead, how's everybody doing today? Glad you're all here. Thanks for joining us. I'm Wally Seward. I'm the Director of Civic Engagement and the Emerging Leaders Co-Facilitator of Leadership St. Louis for Focus St. Louis. Welcome to the Emerging Leaders 2023 information session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in a minute and talk a little bit through the program. However, while I'm doing that at the beginning part of this program, I've actually got a few questions for you all, just kind of curious about what you all want to think about and talk about. So if you would go to menti.com, and Kate's going to put some instructions in the chat for you. On any browser, second browser on your computer or your phone, wherever, go to menti.com, menti.com, and then enter that code in the chat. That'll give you a chance to answer a couple of audience poll questions, and we're going to come back to that at the end of the session today. Give you all a chance to weigh in a little bit on what you think about St. Louis and the region. All right, perfect. I see those instructions out there in the chat. Then let me go ahead and pull up. There we go. And share screen. We're going to share. Oh, there we go. All right. Let me pull that. There we go. All right. Very good. So this is our agenda for today. I'm going to make it hopefully relatively quick and painless over your lunch hour. We're going to do an introduction and a program description, which will include a focus video, a little bit more about Focus St. Louis as an organization. Then I'm going to talk through the Emerging Leaders Program a little bit, some of those details. I've got some alumni in the room. I was hoping to have 3 of them. I've got 2 of them at the moment. I know Alicia is super busy at the moment, so hopefully she'll be able to join in a few minutes as well. Then I'll have a chance for you all to ask the alumni any questions that you want to ask, and we'll talk about next steps and take a look at that Mentimeter. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to play, this is a little 4-minute video about Focus St. Louis.
At Focus St. Louis, we believe that so many people desire change.
Oops. What happened there?
Change.
Go.
But they need the inspiration, they need the knowledge, and they need the network to be able to take action. Focus St. Louis has provided civic education for leaders in our region to inspire individuals to action.
And I've been working with the Leadership St. Louis and Focus St. Louis and the predecessor organization Confluence St. Louis, actually from their beginnings in 1976 all the way to the present in 2018. What Leadership St. Louis does is make St. Louis a better place, is to teach people how to collaborate, to give them the opportunity to learn from each other, not to make them all alike, but so everybody understands where everybody else is coming from.
We approach community formation among the participants with intentionality.
We educate students, young professionals, and civic and business leaders about the strengths and the challenges and opportunities of our region.
I was looking for a way to contribute, to be more involved with the community that I live in, and this was an incredible way to become involved.
I think Focus St. Louis has a pretty robust network, pretty extensive alumni, so that alone kind of convinced me in terms of they act as kind of a hub for connecting individuals to both for-profit and nonprofit.
Hundreds of people have gone through the program over the years in which it's been in existence, and so they become a part of that network.
I'm from St. Louis, born and raised. You know, I believe very much in the city, and I want folks to know that there's actually really great things going on here, and organizations like Focus St. Louis that highlight and promote and support and encourage those sorts of things, I'm welcome the opportunity to be a part of that.
You know, collaboration is messy. It takes a lot more time. But I think in the end, you end up with a much better result. And part of that process is people learning to trust one another. And I think that makes a lasting impact for our region.
If you are contemplating joining a focus group, applying for a program, that means there's something in you that should just do it.
None of our work would be possible if people in the region stopped showing up. Their commitment to collaboration, innovation, equity, community, and action mirrors the values that we strive to extend through all of our focus programs.
They taught me what it's like to be a police chief, what it's like to be a nonprofit executive officer, what it's like to be a city manager, what it's like to be a corporate VP of a stockholder-owned utility. All of those roles I understand much better because I've watched and learned from the people who occupy them.
It's teachable moments that help us understand what it's like to live in a different socioeconomic background or with a different skin color. And I think that is where the change is going to happen, is where we are willing to change policies and practices and really make things more equitable for all.
Okay, so that gives you a little bit more sense of who Focus is, who we are in the region, what our goals are in the region. Focus has a full spread of leadership development programs, starting with Youth Leadership St. Louis, which is high school juniors and seniors, Women in Leadership, Emerging Leadership, Leadership St. Louis, which is the executive level program. Hopefully next year, we're also going to be bringing back the Impact Fellows program, which actually is a lot of different levels, but is really, really focused on civic projects, where we've got some really exciting stuff coming up there. The Emerging Leaders program is for those folks who are mid or early career, really want to learn how they can show up as a leader in the city of St. Louis. So who should apply? Ideal candidates are youngish. We have no specific age range whatsoever. Professionals who self-identify as leaders of our region, who want to step into a space and help make a difference. Those who desire a deeper understanding of the region, especially the emerging leaders. As the Director of Civic Engagement for Focus, it's really, really my goal during the Emerging Leaders to give you a tour of cool people doing cool things in cool places in St. Louis. There's so many interesting things happening in the city of St. Louis. A deeper dive into that, that's something you can look for in the Emerging Leaders program. If you're seeking to build and refine personal, professional, and civic leadership skills, as well as some personal core values training, right? So we're going to have that outward viewing curriculum, which is about learning about St. Louis and everything that's going on here. We've also got that self-reflection part of the curriculum that teaches you a little bit more about your leadership style, lets us play with our value structures a little bit. That's my specialty. I love doing that. I am an ethicist by training, so we're going to have some fun with that. Those who aspire to work collaboratively with peers in addressing civic and social issues. That collaboration is so super important. It's a vital piece, not just for the region, but for us, for the organizations who are involved. I'm involved with a lot of coalitions all across the region. They are not easy. They are hard. They require you to give up control when you start bringing collaborative partners together. But that is the only way we're going to address the problems that we have as a region, is through collaboration. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that. Those who intend to utilize diverse perspectives, experiences, and knowledge in making our region a better place to live, work, and play. Our cohorts are intentionally diverse. Our speakers are intentionally diverse. Our program is intentionally diverse. This is a core part of what Focus St. Louis is and does. We are a neutral convener in the region. However, we are not neutral on race. This is a really important piece of the puzzle, is making sure that we're paying attention to the issues that are really at play in the region today. And finally, those who wish to build a strong and trusted personal network of leaders. It's not only your own cohort, it's all of the alumni that Focus St. Louis has. I'll tell you, I can get a meeting with anyone in St. Louis because everyone in St. Louis is only 1 degree away from a Focus alum. That's a super useful part of it. Networks they've got good and bad, right? Because networks contribute to kind of things staying the way they are. Unfortunately, they're a reality of the way things work in a community. So what that means is Focus is intentional in making sure that if networks are going to be vital for people to move forward, we want to make sure that everyone has access to those networks, that those networks don't remain exclusive. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. So that tells you a little bit. If that sounds like any of those describe you, I think you might be a great candidate for emerging leaders. So yeah, I think I've talked through the first part of that a little bit. That's a very non-exhaustive list of who can be in emerging leaders. We've had elected officials, we've had university professors, we've had students, we've had all kinds of folks. Really, it's about whether you want to step into a leadership role in the region. The time commitment, this is a 3-month program. So that means over the course of that 3 months, we're going to have an opening mix and mingle, which is a few hours. I think we're actually going to do it at Urban Chestnut again this year, which is very, very cool. They've got a nice room in the back that they give to us. You'll have a 2-day opening retreat, during which time we do a lot of initial work around creating shared language, creating shared understandings around some of the issues happening in the region, as well as we start getting a taste of what those civic action projects are going to look like. There are 5 seminar days. There's a CAP presentation day, which the current emerging leaders are looking at this Friday, actually. So that gives you a sense, and I'll show you the actual schedule here in just a minute, so you can actually have that. You will have the dates right from up front, so you can put them in your calendar and make sure your employer or anything else that you have to coordinate that with, you're all set on. Program outcomes for people: increased sense of engagement in the region, strong understanding of your core values and leadership style, a toolbox to take an active role as the next generation of leadership professionals in the region. I am quite convinced that it is the next generation, once again, that is going to save us from ourselves. So we're hoping to give you the tools to do that. I'm sorry you have to do that, but that's unfortunately the situation we're in. So yeah, there's 2 big pieces of the puzzle when it comes to the curriculum. One is those interactive seminar days. So those are days we all get together, we're doing interviews, we're doing curriculum, we're doing workshops. The other piece of the puzzle is the civic action projects. And I think that's my next slide. So Civic Action Project is a separate piece. It's a really important piece of the puzzle, because instead of just sitting in a room and talking about doing something, we want you to actually be out in the community doing something. So the Civic Action Project is a project that's going to take place over that 3 months with groups of generally between 5 and 8 members of the cohort. And this is a project that you're going to have a community partner, so an organization out there in the community that's doing work, that's going to come to us, and they're going to pitch a project. They're going to say, hey, we've got this and this initiative going, and we need a little help doing this. Right? We need a little help doing research about what are the needs in this neighborhood. We need a little help doing research about what kind of new equipment we should buy. We were standing up this program. Help us do some strategic thinking about what the program needs to look like. So they're going to pitch these projects, and then as a cohort, you all get to kind of select which projects sound interesting to you. Those projects happen independently of the program days. So those groups of 5 to 8 emerging leaders schedule their own times to get together, do that work, and then we will do the project presentations together on project presentation day. This is a list of just in the last year, the organizations that have been community partners on projects for emerging leaders. Soul Fisher Ministries, which does a ton of work, especially for returning citizens, folks returning from incarceration. They just announced today, by the way, that they got another $900,000 federal grant. So I'm super excited about that for them and Chantel. United for Children does a lot of service provider work for children around the region. In fact, they have so much that they have a tough time describing what they do, which is what the emerging leaders are working on. Violence Prevention Commission, Girl Scouts of Eastern Missouri, Operation Food Search, Red Circle, which is now really excitingly a ways down the way on their idea of a community-owned grocery store in North County. So that's a really exciting thing happening. City Greens Market, Wyman Center, For the Ville, Employment Connection, just gives you a taste of the kind of organizations that are coming in and working with the emerging leaders. And feel free to ask the alums about the projects that they worked on. So this gives you the schedule. These are the dates for the spring program. That's on the website as well, so don't feel like you have to scratch them all down right now. It's all up on the website and it's all over all of the information, but just gives you a sense, and you will have all of that before you have to make decisions. So tuition and scholarships. Tuition is $895, often covered by employers for some folks. However, we know that not everybody has an employer, not everybody has a backer that can go ahead and cover that tuition for them. So we do have, we've been working hard to bring in scholarship dollars. We do have partial scholarship assistance for those with demonstrated financial need. And we have sponsored scholarships by the Kwame Foundation, Big League Impact, Dearborn, Asian American Chamber of Commerce. So we really, if you think that's going to be a high bar for you, that tuition, go ahead and apply. Once you've been accepted into the program, then we'll do a round of applications for the scholarships, because the acceptance into the program is completely need blind. But once you're in, then we'll look at scholarships. And if it ends up that you can't afford it, okay, then just let us know. But if you're not sure and you're hoping a scholarship will help you, apply, get into the program. Let's see where we can help you with a scholarship and move that forward. All right, so let's stop there at the moment, and I'm going to stop my screen sharing, and I'm going to go ahead and ask Kate to highlight Alicia, Nathan, and Sarah for me to pin those to the front. And I am going to, all right, great. I'm going to, wait, do I see them? I'm going to remove myself. There we go. All right, excellent. I see Sarah there. I see Nathan, and Alicia, I'm sure will pop up here in just a moment. So Sarah and Nathan are actually both currently in Emerging Leaders. They're both probably freaking out just a little bit because they have project presentations on Friday. But they happily agreed to join us here today. And Alicia, who was here, is she here? Is she popping up here?
She is. She's coming on video, and once she's on video, I can spotlight her. Great,
sounds good. Alicia was in last year's Emerging Leaders. Alicia was also, hi Alicia, welcome. Alicia was also the political director for the Megan Green campaign, the just very successful Megan Green campaign. So congratulations on that, Alicia. And I know she's got some really interesting announcements coming up, but I'm not gonna say anything. All right, so what I'm gonna ask Alicia to do, and Alicia, we'll go ahead and start with you, is just if you can talk a little bit about your experience in Emerging Leaders, the project you did, and what you think the program brings for people. After you, Alicia.
Okay, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you all are here and are considering this opportunity. So I actually learned about the Emerging Leaders Program from a mentor of mine, Cora Faith Walker. Actually, I can show y'all, I'm at her house right now. That picture is her. She was advocating for some kind of reproductive justice, or, that's just who she was at some big rally we were having. And so I had the privilege of like being a little sister and a mentee to her. I met Cora because I'm on the board of education for the city of St. Louis, and she was involved in policy and was the policy director for St. Louis County and did a lot of work to expand Medicaid. And we really shared hearts for believing that policy and politics can be used as a tool to get us to a more just and liberated society. And so she said to me, Alicia, you should apply for this fellowship. I said, okay. And then, like probably a lot of us on this call, I procrastinated. She came back, she said, well, I nominated you. So it went from you should apply till I nominated you. Ironically, I applied for Emerging Leaders prior to running for the Board of Education. But then when I decided to run for the Board of Education for the city of St. Louis, I was like, I'm not going to have time for this and that. So I'm going to do it. So when Cora came back to me and said, I nominated you, it was after I was on the board. And I was like, okay, this must be a part of my journey because it's the second time I'm coming across this program. I keep hearing about it. She did it. So many other leaders I know have done it. So let me do it. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I think what Wally is saying about just the ways that you learn to look at leadership. I think sometimes publicly we only see like the people who are faces in our leaders. So like you may only see the politician, for example, but you don't see their chief of staff. You don't see their director of operations. You don't see the chief of the police department. You don't see the person who the personnel director. You don't see these other roles that are so integral as well. And even on the board of education, like you might see a board member like myself, but you also have a superintendent. You have just leadership is so comprehensive. And so I think one of the things that I learned in Emerging Leaders is, we met leaders who were leaders in healthcare. I remember there was a woman, I don't remember her name, but she talked about just the way that she weaved together community and infant mortality rates and people of color being underserved in healthcare and how she was doing that. And she had worked at BJC. We met another person who was the superintendent at University City. And this was a Black woman, and how she got on the call. And I remember her talking about, she called herself a status quo disruptor. Like that's how she referred to herself. And so I feel like I got such a in-depth look at the various ways that you could approach leadership. And then obviously what's amazing is your cohort. Like I just had brunch with some of the people I met in my fellowship. We're still friends. We talk every day. We're very close friends. And we've even since the time of joining Focus, I think I was a leader at that time and was starting to see myself as someone who was interested in particularly political leadership. But since then have joined the board of Pro-Choice Missouri and gotten to be a part of the endorsement process for Congress level people and state reps. And since then, like he mentioned, have been the political director for the highest legislative seat in the city of St. Louis, and am about to make another announcement for another endeavor. And so just for me, it humanized leadership in a way, because I wasn't just seeing like them on Zoom. I wasn't just seeing like their presentations or their public sales, but they come and they talk to you and they tell you, this is who I am as a person. This is why the way I practice leadership, the way that I do, is because these are the values that I hold. We also talked about struggles, times when they were, I think I'm a leader in this area, but I'm working here. So I'm working in this industry, but I don't want to rise here. I actually want to rise over there. How do I transition? Or I have a young child. I still see myself as a leader, but I've taken a step back from everything and decided to focus on my family. I'm ready to reemerge. How do I do that? And we got to talk. Or I'm a leader, but I don't have support from my boss. I don't have support from the person that I report to. And so for me, I really saw leadership as something that was humanized, and it made me comfortable to step up to these other roles. Before Focus, I would have never thought that as a 27-year-old Black girl, I could be the political director for such a big race, like a board of alderman race. I just didn't think I would have had the skill set or known what I was doing. But then when you do a fellowship and you hear from all the leaders, like, oh, they're figuring it out day by day like me. Like they don't have a master plan or a master book or a blueprint. They they had a vision, they felt the calling, they felt it in their heart. They learned collaboration. They learned what it was like to work with others. They learned to be true to themselves, and then their paths emerged. And so I feel like I carried that and then embarked on just moving forward and moving in those directions. And so I would really encourage you to do the program, because what's interesting is you're not going to just grow in your professional capacity. You're going to grow in your personal capacity. You're going to grow in the way that you see yourself. You're going to grow in the way that you think you're capable. It's going to teach you how to relationship build authentically and genuinely. It's going to teach you how to get to know yourself as a leadership. We learned things I still use. You'll do a leadership activity and it'll give you, oh, this is the type of leadership you are. And these are the pros of your leadership style. And these are the cons of your leadership style. So these are the things to be aware of, and have been able to use that in different spaces. And so I had an excellent experience. I've grown so much. I don't think it will be the last leadership fellowship or cohort that I do at all. I think I want to do more. That was for Emergent. I want to keep doing the work and try other things. And I want to do things like this, where hopefully there's someone on this call that you're wondering if you can do this, and you're having what we call self-doubt or self-sabotage. And I want you to put that out the way. And I want you to feel confident in your ability to take this opportunity. And I want you to think of yourself worthy of the investment. It does take time. You do have to be on those 7 calls. Hopefully it won't be all Zoom like it was for some of mine. And you can be in person and be engaged, but you are worthy of that type of investment. And nothing grows without nourishment. And these type of fellowships, these type of interactions, it's gonna grow you're gonna grow yourself, you're gonna grow your network, you're gonna grow your community, you're gonna grow your ability to be capable. And like he said, I've reached out to people who presented to us, and not a single person said, no, Alicia, I won't get coffee with you. A matter of fact, they'll take your coffee and they'll buy it for you. So I think that you should definitely do this opportunity. And if I can be helpful in any other way, I just really want you to know that you are a leader, whether you have owned that you are or not. You absolutely are. And there's no such thing as one leader. And the moment we do just have one leader, we have no leader, because that's how it works. And I want you to just know that you're worthy of the investment. And there, no matter how much you may know now, there's still so much more to know.
Yeah. Alicia, thank you so much. I don't think I could have paid you to do that better. So fantastic. I really appreciate that. And I love that. Thank you. So Sarah, Nathan, Alicia is a tough act to follow, but Nathan, we're gonna start with you.
All right. What are the questions again? I've already forgotten.
That's all right. Just why did you join Emerging Leaders? What did you get out of the program? What advice would you give folks that are thinking about applying?
Yeah, great. All right. So the reason I joined might be different than some others. I'm fairly new to the area. We moved here early 2020, my family and I, for work. I work for, I guess I'll start back. My name's Nate Fester. Hi, everybody. I'm a serials modeling manager for Climate, which is a digital agricultural company that's owned by Bayer Crop Science. Some of you might know them more as Monsanto, but they're Bayer now. Anyway, so I come from industry and moved here back in early 2020, which, if you guys remember, is the start of the pandemic. So things have been mostly shut down since moving here. But after talking with my now manager and a couple other directors within my company, I was kind of asking around how to get better involved in the community, understand the community, where I might want to serve kind of my free time, volunteer my time. I was told about focus and how if I put the time into it, this could be a really good option. And so I was debating either applying for Emerging Leaders or Leadership St. Louis, and ultimately decided on Emerging Leaders for a couple of reasons. One, commitment, it was a little smaller commitment, and 2, the deadline hadn't passed yet. So it made it really easy to decide to join this program. And one of the biggest drivers, like I said, is really about me understanding the region as someone who is not from here. I was not born and raised in the area. And I, have interests that I'd like to pass on to the community, and I'm passionate about around STEM education and let's say financial literacy. But it was also important to me not to assume that those are the biggest challenges that the region is facing. And so This has been a great time for me to kind of sit back and listen to those engaged in the community, to hear what issues are being solved, how they're being solved, and how people are coming together to solve them. And that's been really inspiring. And one of the, our group, so Sarah and I happen to be in the same group currently, and we're about to present our CAP project this week. But one thing that's been really, I guess, impactful on me is to focus on an area that I've never really thought of before. And so in this case, we're working with Soul Fisher Ministries, and their mission is to reduce recidivism rates to essentially zero. And that very broadly speaking. And I think that's a really cool mission, and it's not something I've thought of before. How do we give support to those reentering society after being in the justice system? And that has been enriching to kind of what I think I knew about the region. So that kind of ties in what I think you can get out of this process, no matter where you stand. I tend to be a little older than the group, but it's awesome because there's so much energy and enthusiasm to kind of feed off of. And that was probably something I was a little worried about. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30, and but don't let that bother you. No matter where you are, because I think what I've experienced is that everyone's there for a similar enough reason to learn from each other, and as long as you're respecting to yourself and others in how you present your views and how you listen to other views, you're going to get something from this process. And there was a very specific point I was going to make, and I've almost lost it. Let's see if I can track back in my mind to find it. But yeah. So tying back to, you're going to learn something you didn't know about yourself, and maybe something that you find passion for that goes beyond whatever your preconceived notions are of how to serve in the city. There are some definite leadership benefits. That was not necessarily the primary focus for me. My focus was really to learn and understand how the region can best be served. And I think that you can certainly apply those to leadership, that there's no question about that. But from my view, the lessons learned from the experts and my team and the cohort have been the most valuable, for sure.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. Sarah, you're up next. Sarah is at Launch Code. They've been in the program, or they're in the program right now, along with Nathan. So yeah, Sarah, if there's anything left to say, take it away.
Yeah, so I joined Focus Emerging Leaders for the free coffee. Have not been disappointed so far. No, but really when I looked at the program, I thought this seems like an amazing way to become a deeper part of the St. Louis community and a really intentional community. And when, I forget who said that in the video, Wally, but it reminded me of one of the first things that I noticed about you was that intentional community curation, because we were at UCBC, we were sitting at tables and we'd unconsciously grouped ourselves into like people of color and white people. And you said, let's mix up the tables, or like, you didn't call it out that specifically, but you did something that was intentional to nudge us to break out of our kind of preconditioned actions in a city that is already highly segregated in a lot of ways. And I think that's carried through the program. Like the groups that we're in, you've been very intentional about creating them so that we're not, in a certain industry or like a certain gender or racial identity, but you've like mixed that up so that not only are we learning from the project, but we're learning from each other in the different ways that we see the world. And I think something I really love is the way that Focus kind of takes you out of your daily routine at work or the kind of communities that you're used to, and it pulls you out and lets you focus on like the larger region. And then it plugs you into a very specific project that demands more of you. And I was able to, in working with Nate, kind of bring something that I'd noticed Mutual Aid St. Louis using and apply it to what Soulfisher needs, and then realize, oh my God, my organization needs this too. And so it actually led me to creating like a database of community partners for Launch Code, and then presenting that to all staff. And then people across the organization are now using it. So it's something where I really encourage you to not just like follow your area of interest, because I did have existing interest in reentry programs and in criminal justice reform, but also I wanted to push myself more in the data sphere. So it was really cool to have that opportunity with this group. And also just another note, like, as mentioned, the connections are really genuine and so good in this day and age. It's been nice to have in-person things to go to again. And I was recently like in the emergency room and had to miss a few things for focus, and I'm fine now, but my team was checking in on me and saying like, hey, I'm so sorry, like, is there anything we can do? And it just felt like another group of people like rooting for me. And it was a great exercise too in letting go. And when we learned about leadership styles, the one that I got said like, you are really like focused on the task at hand and like it has to be your way or the highway. And I was like, oh no, I hate this about me. And then Nate was like, it's not a death sentence, it's a tool. But I think having that forced break allowed me to see just how much the group like is doing the work already alongside you and for you and with you. And I just had total faith in what the group has been doing. And it's so nice to come back after that break and think, oh yeah, like we're still making progress, and this is something that I can be proud of and still contribute to. And these are relationships both with Soulfisher, with my group, and with a larger focus community that I'm going to have, and I'm excited to have in the coming years in St. Louis.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah and Nathan, don't forget to send me your guests for Friday ASAP if you haven't yet. But yeah, we're going to need those. Well, what I'm going to do at this point is, Alicia, if you would come back on, hopefully, if you're not on a busy phone call or something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up to participants today, to the audience, to go ahead if you have any questions of our alums about their experience or about what.
Wally, you're muted.
Feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. Who wants to jump in? I know they covered a lot. There's got to be a question or two out there.
I'll ask a question.
Great.
It may seem strange, but my name is Will Scholl, and I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. And I work for a company called Protective Life Insurance, and we have offices and lots of employees in the greater St. Louis area. And so I was checking this program out because I think it could be great. I mean, I just love the energy I'm seeing on this call, and think it'd be a great way for us to support our community as a company and learn in the process and make a lot of good friendships. So my question though is I don't want to assume anything. You're looking for people who see themselves and want to be leaders within St. Louis. Does that matter where they live? I'm not asking for people in Birmingham, Alabama like myself, but is there a certain geographic radius or that you give priority to or preference to, or is it, hey, if you love St. Louis and want to be a part of making it great, all are welcome?
I will take that, guys. Yes, good question. St. Louis is a roughly described area, right? So no, there is not a specific geographic area that we pull from. We pull from Illinois across the river. We pull from all the counties surrounding St. Louis. So if you're in the St. Louis metropolitan statistical area, I think it's 7 or 11 counties, or even if you're further, we've actually had participants from Kansas City before. We're not doing as much virtual when it was easier, but if you feel like you can get into those in-person meetings, 100%. And it's actually important to us that we have participants from larger segments of the region, because it's the entire region that actually makes the community, and not just St. Louis City or St. Louis City and County, but it includes those surrounding counties. It includes on the other side of the river in Illinois. So yes, absolutely. We welcome folks from anywhere in the region. As long as you think you can make it to the in-person sessions, we welcome you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Wally. And thanks for those of you who are kind of sharing your, what I'd call a testimonial. It's just great to hear. This is such a great program.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else got a question for our panelists?
I do. Hi, my name is Brittany and work at Opera Theater of St. Louis. I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the kind of individual group projects you all were doing and kind of how that worked as far as the topics you picked and how you worked together, how scheduling worked outside of, your job and doing the program and everything. Thank you.
So for my community group, we worked with a grocery store in the community that was called Fresh City Market Greens. Hopefully I'm getting the name right. City Market Greens, something along those lines. They're on Grove Street. And so they are a community-based, like almost nonprofit style of a grocery store. Their founders were originally 3 Black women who saw that a food desert existed in their community. And so they literally formed a grocery store as an organization. And so for my group, we worked with the organization and we created data collection for them. And so what does that look like? We surveyed the community, and again, you get full jurisdiction. So you'll talk to the organization, at least with us, and you'll say, what are your needs? What are you looking for? They were wanting to know how the community felt about them, and they were wanting some suggestions on rebranding. They felt like people were kind of seeing them as a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and not getting some of their very community-based aspects. They have direct relationship with farmers, particularly minority farmers and people of color farmers. And in the area, even though it has, what's interesting too is seeing the way that gentrification has impacted it. So it is not necessarily a food desert, but in some ways it is, because it's not a lot of grocery stores in the area, but it is like bustling with restaurants and in like an entertainment district area, basically. But that doesn't mean that food is available, like suggestions on their membership fees. And so we did some canvassing in the community to see what people thought of them. And we came up with some suggestions or models for like membership fees and what people might be willing to pay, and did some price comparisons to see, like, are you actually cheaper than Aldi's or Trader Joe's, or how do you compare? And so we actually found that they actually were about the same. And so the difference for them is just their mission and the relationships that they have. So we gave them a whole proposal in the end on like marketing, language, logo suggestion. Yes, City Greens. It was for City Greens. Marketing, language, suggestions, and things like that. I was the communicator for our group because I do a lot of things outside of it, but it was like, well, she talks. That's what she's good at, talking. So I really got to kind of be the one. I would meet with the organization weekly, update them. This is where we are, but we're wondering about this from your end, and then take that back to the group. We also had a project manager who kind of made sure all the moving pieces were involved, and then a researcher, a writer. It was very interesting as there was no hierarchy style, like one role didn't necessarily, it was just different roles, but not necessarily like a hierarchy of leadership or different things. I liked it. I still have a relationship with City Greens. I actually got to, as a follow-up to that, be a celebrity chef. I mean, a guest judge. They had like a fundraiser where they brought in different chefs and had food tastings, and the judges got to taste the food and make rankings. And I love a good networking show, and I never thought I would get to be tasting the food, more free food. And I love food. Food is one of my love languages, food and policy. So I got to like judge the show, and I'm still in relationship with the executive director. And I still, when they have events, I still share them. I'm almost like an ambassador for them. If they have something they want me to help echo out or come to, I'm always happy to do that. And they're not far from where I live. So I'm also happy to, see that resource.
Looks like we lost Alicia. All right. Well, I think she got into most of that on that project. Sarah or Nathan, do you want to just talk real quick about your project?
Sure, yeah. Also a note on how we chose. Wally had people come in and present their projects and problems. Then we ranked our top choices, and then we were assigned to groups. Then we met with the person, in our case, Soul Fisher Ministries, and they needed a kind of toolkit for working with second chance employers to make the case for hiring their participants. And then we also identified probably having like a database would be helpful, or a way to contact people and then track those contacts. So we ended up having pretty much weekly meetings. It was a mixture of virtual, but mostly virtual, with our team, and working on the different parts, the toolkit and the database. And we had someone who was in contact with Soul Fisher Ministries asking questions, and then a leader for the group. And we've kind of split up the work according to which task we were assigned to. And Wally also gives us time in the meetings to work as a group. So that's really helpful in balancing that with work.
Yeah, I try to give them just I don't give them much, but I give them a little time during our program days to focus on these, because I also want to make sure that we're getting the full curriculum in otherwise. But yeah, Sarah said it. So I'm out recruiting potential community partners for next year already. I think Diaper Bank's going to be a partner. I think got a couple others on the St. Louis area Diaper Bank, got a couple others on the way. But yeah, the idea is that they'll come in, they'll pitch their project, and then as a participant, you get to kind of rank them. And then I split up the groups based on hopefully getting folks into what they're interested in. Because if you're not interested in what's happening, you're not going to be motivated to work on it and engage on it. Good. Thank you for that question, Brittany. Did we answer all your questions? Good. Okay. And yeah, in terms of how the groups meet, I've seen groups do the virtual meetings once a week. I've seen other groups that get together and drink or get together and eat. There's all kinds of different ways, just depends on your group a little bit. All right. Very good. Sarah, Nathan, thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to do a few last things with these folks. I know you all are busy. You're welcome to stick around, but also we are all set. We really appreciate your taking the time today. Thank you so much. And I will see you very soon, tomorrow. All right. Okay, so let me bring us back and to my screen sharing here. And there we go. All right, we got the program schedule, tuition. We did that. All right, so before we do that, I'm kind of curious what you all thought. So we're going to do this. I'm going to screen share the other screen. There we go. All right, can you all see that? Yes. Okay, so what aspects of St. Louis are you looking to learn more about? All of it, brand new here. Excellent. So you heard Nathan, that was kind of his story. Networking, great. Strengths and weaknesses of St. Louis. We're definitely going to talk about that, both the strengths and weaknesses, because there's a lot of potential here, just as much as there are problems. Civic processes and engagement. Resources to share with my occupational therapy clients. Interesting. Okay, very good. Learn more about crime, abandoned properties, and food scarcity in the city of St. Louis. Okay, absolutely. Economic and financial connections and developments between the city and the county. All right, that's a big subject, the one that's going to be coming up again over the next few years. Most critical community needs, excellent. How to make an impactful change within a segregated and complicated St. Louis system. Well said. Absolutely, all of those are things that we can touch on, and I want you all to know also that during the program, I don't have the entire program curriculum set at the beginning of the program. I work really hard to make sure that I'm listening to you all and that I'm going to bring people in that you all are interested in hearing from. So you all also have a chance to kind of shape the curriculum a little bit. If you're really interested in city county stuff, we can bring in some folks to talk about that. If you're really interested in criminal justice reform, we can bring in some folks to talk about that. Economic development versus gentrification, we can talk about that. You want to talk about talent retention and workforce development, we can talk about that. I'll be doing a lot of asking you all kind of what you're interested in as we work up to the program as well. So definitely a lot of stuff that we can think about. So the most potential for success, where do you all see the upsides in St. Louis? The city-county divide, a lot of potential there, absolutely. And then someone said, nope, just the city. I like it. All right, we're thinking all over the place. Collaboration, definitely. Downtown, North City, Central Corridor. I see potential when a group of passionate people come together. I love that, and I absolutely 100% agree. Developing young people, providing opportunities for people. There's potential help with the homeless population as well. Absolutely, the unhoused population, a huge issue, especially in the city of St. Louis. Bridging relations between the city and county. Okay, all right, so I guess we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit. Creating more equity for communities in St. Louis that are in need and connecting them to the many resources that are available here. Absolutely. You heard Sarah talk about mutual aid, everything from the 211. There's a lot of resources in the region. Many of them are underutilized. And also many of them are building and changing and offering new things, especially post-pandemic. There's a lot of interesting new things happening. We just had a whole panel on behavioral health in the region. And there's a lot of new stuff happening around there. We now have a sobering center, the Dunica Sobering Center is one of the first ones in the state. So when the police pick up someone who has a behavioral or an addiction issue, they have somewhere besides the emergency room or jail to drop them off. Just kind of giving you guys a sense, like these are all the kinds of things that we can talk about and think about. Now the important question, St. Louis sliced bagel, yay or nay? Okay, we have, I guess, yay wins. And if you're not from St. Louis sliced bagel is take a bagel, instead of slicing it through and then getting a top half and bottom half, you slice it just like this and get a bunch of little slices and little chips of bread. It's a thing. I don't know why, but it's a thing. And it's important to people. And apparently people here like St. Louis sliced bagels. So, all right, very good. Let me do, and by the way, this kind of audience polling is something I do in the program as well. That's how, for instance, all the participants got to enter their preferences for the projects. When we do our values workshops, I bring this in and we do a lot of kind of audience polling on hard ethical cases and talking about them. So it's all interactive. It's all about getting you all involved. All right, so before the end, let me go ahead and switch my screen share here and move us over to, there we go. That should, come here. There we go. All right. Very good. So we've done the tuition scholarships. So the last few details, directly upcoming. Application deadline, Monday, December 5th. There'll be a selection day. That's Tuesday, December 13th, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. So make sure if you apply, you put that on your calendar because it is former participants, excuse me, that make all the acceptance decisions. That's a really important day. We'll be notified on December 21st, and then we'll start that scholarship process, and we have that scholarship notification on January 20th. So those are some important upcoming dates. And then the last slide here is just if you have any questions, I welcome you to reach out to me. My email is there. We've also got, and Kate's been putting in the chat, the links for the EL website page that you can get information from, as well as the application, which you can go directly to, or it's also on that web page. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and just in the last few minutes, just to respect your time, make sure that if there's any other questions out there in the audience, we get those answered before we call it a day. So any last things that folks are thinking about, wondering about, want to ask about? All right. No questions, free association, angry rants, anything you got? All right, well, it looks like we answered all your questions. Like
important, sorry, Wally, there was a request for the important dates. I'll also include that link back in the chat as well. And yes, Kayla and Becky on our team are awesome. Will, when you said you missed the link, they're very thorough and detail oriented.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Kate. I wasn't looking at the chat. All right. Okay. And with that, 3 minutes ahead of time, we're going to let you go. Thank you all for coming. Again, reach out if you have any questions and look forward to hearing from you. Have a good day.